Okay, a bit of apology to start out. You'll notice that there is no episode 8 of the Chevelle painting. It had somehow gotten, the file had gotten corrupt before I could process it, so it's still in there. I hope I can get to it, but yeah, we'll work on that. So for this episode, I'm going to start locking in the rest of the body on this side of the car. If I can get that done, then I can jump to the interior, the grill, wheels, and then this one's done. So that's kind of where we're at today. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the overall color and the way that it's blocked in. It's not going to take too much work to get the paint to kind of looking the way it should. Um, so I'm just going to tidy up a few things and then move on to the chrome, and I think we'll be in good shape. So yeah, like I said, everything looks pretty good. So I'm happy with that. Um, yeah, let me start working on the chrome and the pinstripe and see if things come together. I'll know more as I kind of get into it. So, all right. I think the first thing to do is to start with the chrome. So we'll start with the trim and the mirror here. And I haven't cut that out yet on anything, on any of these copies. But what's nice is I can pick one that hopefully doesn't have anything going on around it, and then I don't have to use a new copy. This one may work right here. Yeah, this one will work. So what I'm looking for is the mirror with no cutouts around it. That way I can reuse the template. This one, for instance, this one has the bulk of the body. Obviously, the mirror is right there, so that's, it's not going to work. Excuse me. That. So the good news about, not the good news, but the okay thing about losing episode 8 is at this point of the painting, it's pretty much rinse and repeat. So it's a lot of the same process, just over and over again to get it done. Get you a little closer now. So it's pretty much the same process over and over again. So while I wanted to have the painting have just about everything in it, or everything, the whole process, which is kind of a bummer that half hour is missing. You're not going to miss anything as far as info, really. What I did in episode 8 is basically the same as what I'm doing in the bulk of these middle episodes here. Alright, so I'm cutting out just the light part of the chrome. Need a new blade in this too. So I can tell I need a new blade because it just gets difficult to cut. It won't really be sharp. So I go through a lot of these blades because I'm really just using the tip. I do save them all though after, because I can use them for cutting mats and things like that, because the rest of the blade is still brand new. Alright, just can't use it for anything real precision. Okay, this gets lined up. So I light up the mirror, but then I check the other parts of the car. Obviously, it's not really lined up. In this case, it's not going to make a huge difference if it's not perfectly lined up, because that's a circle, essentially. So if it's rotated or whatever, it's not going to, on this piece, it's not going to make a difference. On some pieces like the wheels and tires, it would make a difference because you change the angle of that oval, and that can be a problem. But for this little guy, it's almost head on. Alright, let's load up this brush with some white. So I think I can get away with just doing this with white instead of mixing up a gray. I need to mix up more white. What do you know? That's alright, I can get away with what I got for this one. There we go, perfect. Okay. So for this, now I've blocked off, I've only cut out the white area, I left the black area. I'll do that part with a paintbrush. So you see the photocopy still has the white on there. So it's flowing. And I have a bit of a fade, so it's light at the top and then fades out on the bottom. it's as simple as that. Is what I should have done, which I could have done on this one, is I could have, yeah, I'm gonna use this same cutout to do the rocker panel, and should be able to get the handle too, and the logo, maybe even the trim. So what I'm looking for is making sure no cutouts are too close to what I want to paint. This wouldn't be a disaster because this template was a light color. It was a light gray. So if I get a little bit of white overspray in those open areas, it's not going to make a difference. But again, I want to avoid things that are going to cause me to have to redo things or fix things. Obviously, it's not cool to have that happen. So for this one, I'll cut out, same thing here. I know what the door handle looks like. I got to avoid what's in my head. I just got to cut out what's there. So really it's just the top handle piece, and I'm going to change this blade because this one is at the end of its life. What happens with an old blade is it starts ripping the paper. It starts pulling the paper instead of cutting it, especially this thicker copier paper. This is 28-pound photocopy paper, so it's pretty thick. So what happens is the blades, once they start to lose their tip, they just start ripping the paper, and that can be a problem, especially on really super small cuts like this. Oh, that's much better. Okay, I'm gonna leave the lock. There's a little tiny, you can just barely see the lock right there. I'm gonna leave that because I'll use a paintbrush for that. The logo, same thing with the logo. So the logo has flags, the crossed flags, and then the flag poles, and then the badge underneath. All I need really is the flag, or the flags. Once I have that, then I can paint in the rest with a paintbrush. Plus, like this badge with the crossed flags and the banner below, it's too much. It would, it would fall apart if I tried to cut out everything. So maybe I'll cut out the badge too. The badge is a little bit less brilliant. The flags are white, where the badge is kind of gray. So I just gotta make sure I just barely hit that with some overspray, just to kind of lock it in. The chrome around the outside wheel well, I could cut that too, but I think I'm gonna skip that because I'm gonna follow more of, or use a paintbrush for that, so that way I can follow more of the shape of the wheel well that I have. If I'm slightly off and I put this line in and I spray it in, it's going to be misaligned from everything, and then I have to fix the whole thing. If I paint it by hand, if it's off a little bit, I can follow it on the painting, and then it's just a one and done kind of thing. This rocker panel below is kind of grayish as well, so just keep an eye on the reference. Just make sure I'm doing the right thing. It's easy to just hose it down and spray the whole thing white. The pinstripe I'm definitely going to cut out, but not on this one because obviously it gets lost here where I cut out the back piece. I'll do that on the next one. Yoke. Back to this guy. So now I just line this up. It's obviously easy to line up because I've got all the other shapes here, like the headlights and the wheels and everything. So assuming I got those lined up, I'm in good shape. I do notice the rocker panel is a little bit lower than what I have here, so hopefully that's going to line up correctly. So what I would rather do, so if I line all this up and everything looks good here, but I notice that the rocker panel isn't in the right spot, at this point I would physically move it around. So I made sure that the rocker panel was correct. So again, it's the same kind of thing. If I just line up by the headlights and the other cutouts and I spray this rocker panel, it's in the slightly wrong spot, I have to fix it. If I take 2 seconds to kind of slide it around and move it to the right spot, even though these may not be lined up perfectly, this will look correct and everything will be fine, and I don't have to fix it. So again, it's kind of choosing your battles. Alright, so the rocker panel is light, same thing, light on the top and fades on the bottom. Now there is a bit of a misalignment here, or when I originally did it, you can see that white or light strip going through it. So I have to kind of mask that first. So I'm going to spray the top side of it and fade down until that line is gone. So I'm going to move the magnets a little bit so I get a little bit of help here holding this down. And my fingers are holding this side down. Instead of using magnets everywhere, I'll just use them on the top, and my fingers will hold the bottom part down. And I am going to do this because I am close to this wheel too, right here. So I don't want to get any white on the wheel. Again, it's not the end of the world if I do get a little bit of white on the wheel, because there's so much happening on that wheel. I don't have to worry, I'll cover it anyway. But again, it's just less work, It's less fixing it before you get to actually do what you want to do. So I get this going off. I start the spray on top of on the copy, so I get the paint flowing first before I move down onto the part I want to paint. It just helps me make sure that everything's working right. So what I'm doing is I'm splitting the difference. I'm really spraying on the top edge of that, not on the right directly on the whole thing. And that gives me that fade, that overspray that I need. I think that's going to be good. There's a line on the top of that, like where it rolls over. There's a highlight on the top of that rocker panel. So I'm good with a little bit of that line still showing. It actually helps out. All right, so the door handle, I want to make sure this piece is not folded up. Same thing, I don't have to hammer it, I just have to get in the right spot, and then I'll hand paint the rest of it, because there's highlights on that too. For this guy, for the logo, again, the banner is in gray, so what I do is I just kind of put my finger over it, and then spray the flags first. And then when that's done, I can remove that, and then I can just hit the bottom with a little bit of, just a couple hits of gray or white, and then that'll do it. I think that's everything, right? The door handle, rocker panel, and the logo. Next is the pinstripe. Well, I'm going to take a look at this first, see what it looks like. Yeah, it looks really good. Okay, we're in good shape. It's funny, I feel like I should be doing something more in here, even though that's pretty much locked in. The rest of the body here, color, I feel like there's something else I have to do here. There's a lot of other details in the reference photo that I'm specifically leaving out, which I do a lot. Like if you look at the reference, I mean, you could certainly copy the reference exactly, but there's a curb that runs through this. That's that white line right there. For me in this, since I have a real studio feel, everything's super clean, I don't want random reflections, so that might be what's kind of throwing me off. And then also not having the highlights, which will really kind of pull things together, like these highlights on the flare, and then the where the door panel meets, that little highlight right there. All that will really help to tie it together. And I did miss the Super Sport on the back too, which I could hand paint that way back there. That's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna trust what's there. I think. I mean, I can make adjustments after I put the chrome on, but it becomes more of a difficult thing to work around the stripe and the chrome. So that's kind of why I'm waffling a bit on this. But I think I'm gonna just go for it. I think it's gonna be okay. All right, so I'll use not my reference. I could use my reference, but I don't want to do that. So I'll grab same thing. I need another copy that has pretty much nothing around it. This is the window copy, so I'll use this for the pinstripe. Pinstripe is kind of a half and half thing. So it's half template. I'm going to use a template to lay it out, and then use a paintbrush to actually paint it in, because it's too thin to cut this line correctly. It'll be close, but it'll be too thin when I cut it. So I have to kind of beef it up with the paintbrush. So it's also, I mean, it's always important to be as accurate as possible with these cuts. This long flowing cut, if it's not perfect, because it does, kind of follow the body. If it's not perfect, I can fix it with the paintbrush, but it's the same kind of thing. The better this cut is, the easier it is in the long run for me. Unfortunately, I don't have any kind of template to guide my cut here, so I just gotta kind of wing it. So what I want to do, what I think of when I'm doing these long cuts, especially like on wheels and things, that it has to be like super smooth all the way around, no, jags or hiccups or anything. Um, I kind of prepare the cut first. So first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I'm not on a used part of the cutting mat. This is like a rock now because I've cut so many times on it, so I have to make sure I'm on a soft part. Um, that's number one. Number two is I learned this from Keith Hansen with striping, and it's neat how different disciplines kind of cross over. So listen to the advice of everyone, and then just filter it through your process and apply it. So it's not that you have to do everything everyone says, but look for those little nuggets of information that you can apply to what you're doing. And that'll build your style, because now you're filtering it all through yourself and you're using it the way you need to use it. So the trick he was showing me when we were talking about pinstriping was, one of the simple things that people don't even think about when they're pinstriping is they don't think of where their hand is going to end up. So usually they'll start like here, they'll start the stroke, and then their hands are all jammed up, and then they have to move their hand and then keep it going. And right when you move your hand, that's when there's a little wiggle, there's a little jump. So it seems really simple and straightforward, but you want to plan out your attack and make sure you have plenty of room to do the whole line that you want to do. Same thing with a cut. You don't want to get halfway through the cut, realize that you have to move your hand down to finish the cut, because it's going to do something bad there. So first thing I want to do is make sure I got the whole cut, and then what I want to do is I want to look about half an inch ahead of the cut, and that so the theory there is, it's like when you're driving. When you're driving, you're not looking directly in front of the car. You're looking ahead 50 to 100 feet and planning that, that where you're going to be driving. It's the same thing with a knife. If you're looking at the blade, you're always going to be like chasing that, and the cut will be really ragged. If you're looking slightly ahead, you know where you're going, and it comes out a lot smoother. And the final thing that you want to kind of keep in mind, or that I keep in mind when I'm doing these things, is speed means smoothness. If I go real slow and try to cut this really slowly, it's going to be jagged, because I'll be just kind of ragging through it. If I just kind of do this in one shot, I mean, not like hacking at it, but if I do it in one clean shot, it gives me a better chance that it's going to come out nice. All right, so all that talking, and this is what it looks like. So I push the blade in at the top of the stripe, and then the other thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to talk when I do this. So it's because the vibration also can kind of screw you up on small cuts. So I'm just going to run it right across. That's it. I'll show you what that looks like. So it's a really smooth cut. There's a couple of little wiggles in it, but it's not terrible. But you see how thin that cut is, and you'll see how thin the pinstripe is when I put it on too. So it's going to be a little bit too thin, but again, I'll be able to fix that with the paintbrush. And what's nice is all the things I just talked about apply with the paintbrush as well. So when I go to paint that stripe in, I'm going to use exactly the same kind of rundown that I just used to cut that. Alright, so line this up. You can use the logo and the wheel, and I got plenty of stuff to line up with now, so I know that's going to be in the right spot. The logo looks like it's a little bit low, but I'm okay with that. It's not going to make a difference. Alright, so for this I'm going to put the magnets on it, but the magnets can double as a mask here too. So I just got to be careful when I put these super strong magnets on the painting. If I were to put these magnets directly on the painting, there's an excellent chance that I'll damage the painting. So it's not going to do that because it's on the paper, but there are openings in this template, and I want to make sure that I don't scratch the painting. Again, it's not a major thing, but it's just more work in the end. Alright, so to spray this guy, it's the same thing as what I just did with the rocker panel, really. I have the magnets on the opposite side, and I'm holding down this side. That way I know I got it really tight. And that's not good. Not terrible, but there's a little opening right there at the end. Don't want that getting paint on that. So I can just block it off like this. Drop another magnet on that. Maybe not, because these magnets are too strong. Move it over a bit. Excuse me. Okay, back to it. So I'm spraying really dry. It's just back and forth, really dry, and I'm aiming the airbrush directly at the cut. I don't want to come in at an angle because it'll push the paper up and make this line fuzzy. So I really want to keep it light, really super light dry coats, and I want to aim right at that stripe, and that'll give me that really tight line. Should be good. Now I'm going to move this magnets down to the next part. Okay, same deal. I want to resist the urge to go over the whole thing too, because then I'll do this with the airbrush. See how it blows up, like that edge just kind of pops up. If that happens while you're spraying paint, it'll sneak under there and make it fuzzy. So I don't want that. Now before I move this, I'm going to drop the magnets down here, and I'm going to take a look to make sure it's okay, because I can't line this up again once. I mean, I can, but it's really hard. So instead of going through all that, I'm just going to check it before I remove it. And that's perfect. That came out great. But see how thin that is? It works out really, really well. Gives you a really nice stripe. I mean, I could almost leave that. I may leave that. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so that gets put aside. So I've got the pinstripe. I've got the handle and the mirror locked in. I think I'm just going to do the. Well, that's going to be paintbrush, so I don't have to worry about that. The chrome around both wheel wells are going to be paintbrushed, and the Super Sport logo in the back is paintbrushed too, so I think I'm good there. So I might be ready for paintbrush. Double check. Yeah, if there is chrome around the top of the door, I can't see it. There's a little bit of a light gray line which I'll put in, but I don't think it's super chrome, like, you know, just chrome trim under the window. Sorry. Grabbed some coffee and knocked the camera around. Alright. You can start with either white or black, or I can, you know, I usually start with either white or black. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever really I feel. Generally, I'll start with the black with the paintbrush. I don't know why. It's just kind of a habit, but I don't think it overly matters. What I do try to do is I try to start in one spot and move across. I try not to bounce around, because when I bounce around, that's when I forget stuff. So if I just kind of keep moving across the painting in one direction, it's a better chance that I'll get everything. So with the black, I want to start looking for little black areas, and I've already got the top of this done. There's a separation between the two. I've already got that. That's good. Yeah, before I do this, I should do the lines for the door. So it works the same way. I just can't use the same cutout. There it is. You couldn't remember which cutout I used for that. Okay. So the door jambs work exactly the same way as this pinstripe. It's just black. Cut that out. This is one of the best kind of technique tricks that I've learned doing these door jambs and these really super thin lines. Excuse me. They're tough to get down accurately in one shot. But doing it this way, they'll be exactly in the right spot. They'll be perfectly clean. These I won't even have to touch. I mean, I might, but for the most part, you don't have to touch it, which is great. Drop that back down. Let's do it this way, so I can hold it. Okay. Same thing here. Just line this up really well. My apologies for the congestion. It is 6:30 in the morning here, so I'm getting an early start. And since I had the corona a couple weeks ago, between that and the pollen, I've been waking up stuffed every day. So I apologize that you guys get to enjoy that as well with me. All right. Same thing here. Now I'm choosing, I should have mentioned before, for the white, for the stripe, I used the 1-to-1 mix. It's the thickest version of this mixed paint I have. I do the same thing with the black in this instance. I use a 1-to-1 mix for the black. Again, I want it heavier. I don't want it really super thin because then it'll creep underneath as well, flood out. I don't want that. Same thing. Hold it down and then I spray right at it. Making a bunch of passes. I don't have to do this in one shot. If I try to do it in one shot, I'll definitely have, spider webbing underneath and bad stuff. And same as the front. Oops, should move the magnets. Same deal here. Want to slide those magnets up a little bit and take a look at it. And that's perfect. That came out great. I'll show it to you close up. Again, when I do this right, it's almost, it almost gives me everything I need. Like I don't need to touch that line, either one. And they're right in the right spot. They're perfect. They're clean. I'll zoom you in. Like that is like super micro thin, but perfect. Like that really, that's difficult to do with a paintbrush for me. But with a paintbrush, we're good. It did go over the door handle. It's not a big deal. I gotta paint a bunch of that anyway. So, not worried. All right, now I can jump to the paintbrush. So I've been bouncing back and forth between the 00, the double lot, and the single 0, which I use a lot. I don't know. I seem to swap between the two depending on my mood. It's not one's better than another or that one is for a specific purpose. I don't know. I couldn't explain to you why. I just do. So I'm on the 00 right now. So what I suggest is if you're interested in these brushes, just get both. They're both really, really good. I can run my studio off of either brush. And again, I can't really tell you the bristles on it's so clogged up. The bristles on the bristles on the 0. This is the single 0. They're proportionally much bigger than the 00. This one on the right. But again, they share the same point. So for drawing really longer lines, the 0 is better at that. But for details, the spring on the 00, because the bristles are a little bit shorter, is just really, really nice. As I say that, I'm trying to pull a long line with this, which is fine. Again, they'll both do both jobs. Okay, same thing with that one. I shut up, but I just pull that line. I try to do the same thing. I look a little bit ahead, maybe about half to a quarter inch ahead of the brush, just to make sure I know where I'm going, and I try desperately to keep that line going, to keep it smooth. It isn't always perfect. Sometimes there's a little bit of, whatever, but those could be cleaned up. The other thing I do too, notice I have my finger on my thumb. So when I'm drawing this line, my pinky is on the surface, which is why I'm wearing the gloves so I don't get oils on the surface. So my pinky is on there as a stabilizer. I put the brush down, and then instead of moving my fingers in and out, what I'm doing is I'm bracing it, and my other hand, I'll back out. You can't see this. What happens is, this hand is on the surface, this hand is on the surface. My fingers are pinching my thumb here, And then what I do is, instead of moving my fingers, which are small muscle groups, I move my whole arm, and that's what really helps keep it smooth. So that way, as I'm dragging it, I'm using these big muscle groups, and there's less chance of this kind of thing going on. So that's how I'm doing this. And then you could draw a really pretty straight line without any kind of ruler or anything. And again, you plan your motion. You want to make sure there's nothing in the way as you're sliding your hand, so you don't have to stop and then reset and then start it again. You just want to keep everything really nice and smooth, and then just draw it out, and you'll be able to get, you know, a pretty nice line. All right. So that is the top of the rocker panel. I've got the door jambs. I don't have to worry about those. Those came out great. I may want to finish this door jamb a little bit down the bottom. And what I'm using for the black is the same thing as what I'm painting with. It's opaque jet black from Createx. So I'll just palette off to the side a little bit to get that point really sharp, and then I'm just going to kind of connect that line like that. Easy peasy. There we go. All right, black. The back has some black on it. I think it's a reflection, but I'm still gonna grab it because it cleans up this back end a little bit. Not much going on there. There's a hitch at the bottom of the vent window. Right here. I got that corner as well. This little opening area right here, this is the inside of the wheel well. This needs to be grayed out a bit. It's supposed to be there. It looks like a misalignment, but it's actually the inside of the wheel well as it rolls over. So that stays. So that's okay. The same thing with this little, looks like a misalignment here on the tire. That's actually the edge of the tire, so that's okay too. All right, the bumper. Rear bumper, which I have in already, but I'm just going to kind of shore it up a little bit since it's probably got some overspray on it since I did it a while ago. So grab that. Oh, the wheel well. Okay, good. So the wheel well, the rear wheel well has a reflection on it, a black reflection. So I'm just going to kind of follow that shape to give me that. And there's another one on top of the chrome, so I'll pre-paint that. So the white will go below it, but for the reflection, that's what's going on there. Okay, good. That there is there's a black line on the top of the chrome here too, but I think I'm gonna paint the chrome in first and then do that black line. I'll show you here. So yeah, you see the black line just above the chrome. So it's going to be easier to paint the white chrome and then do the black line, then do the black line, then try to match the chrome to that. So that looks good. All right. So join me for episode 11. And episode 11 will be the rest of the chrome for this. Little touches of airbrushes on the whole side is going to be done. So then we'll be able to work. The order of business from here on out is going to be the interior next. I'll knock that out. Then I'll work on the grille, and then I'll do the wheels and tires, and this painting will be done. So it's right on track. We're at episode 10 right now, so it's moving a little bit slower because I'm talking a lot. But an average painting like this takes me about 10 to 12 hours, which we're right on track for that. So at episode 10, we've been doing this for about 5 hours now, so we're about halfway through. So there we go. All right. Thanks, and join me for the next one.